I love the conversation that we're going to have today. It is obviously a pertinent one. It seems like the same conversation we've been having for the 15 or 20 years,
Yeah,
right?
right.
About students walking away from their faith, particularly after graduation in those
Yep.
first, 5 years or so. What do you think the church or parents or both are doing or not doing that have contributed
Right,
to
right.
this phenomenon?
Well, let's start with the factors that are part of that. One is just the messy extension of adolescence. What used to be, and many people still think, adolescence is teenagers, 13 to 19, 6-year period, and that's how we used to understand it. Psych 101, junior high was early adolescence, high school was late adolescence. You were discipling your high school kids on the cusp of adulthood. So you had language that way. You were thinking that way. What we now know is that adolescence has gotten longer. It's gotten messier.
The frontal lobe isn't fully
Yeah,
formed, right?
Yeah, frontal lobe. They say now they've learned about that it's not fully developed until mid-20s or if you're a male, 40, somewhere in there.
We still got some time, right?
But that extension has really changed the dynamics. In other words, adolescence enters sooner. 10 and a half or 11 is when, because adolescence is a culturally created phenomenon. It's not a fact. There are cultures in history that never had adolescence as we understand it in Western society. And there are some cultures in the world today that don't have adolescence. So it's part of our culture in America and Western societies. So what used to be fairly concrete 6-year period of helping them with faith through that is now an 11 plus early adulthood. And so that's the part of the factor is we're, I think, discipling with a mindset that doesn't understand the complexity. I always tell adults, we were all teenagers once, but you were never their age in this age.
That's true.
Completely different.
It absolutely is. Even raising my own kids, and
Exactly.
I'm just a generation away, right? I know that you talk about faith factors in student ministry.
Yeah.
For the listener who has no clue what I'm talking about, will you fill them in?
Yeah. I started interviewing students who are 20 to 30 who haven't dropped out and asking a simple question. Why are you still engaged?
Right.
Why are you still involved? Why do you still believe? And that conversation led to what I call the 7 faith factors. These are the 7 things that came out of those conversations that repeatedly were said by those students as things that caused them to be hanging in there. First one is family of origin. Obviously, we hear about it all the time here at D6. Family is a critical spiritual influence on the kid's life. My contention is that, unfortunately, some of our family ministry models make assumptions about the family that aren't accurate, which is that every parent is a Christian parent wanting to disciple their kids, and all we need to do is give them a resource or an idea, and then they'll sit around the table and pray with their kids. And I always say that's not the real world I live in. So my family ministry class at Bethel called it Tiger's Totally Unscientific Theory of Thirds, which is called TUT. And TUT says a third of our parents are those Christian parents ready to be partners with us in discipling their own kids. That's a wonderful thing.
Where mom and dad are both on board and trying to
do the best job.
Yeah.
Middle third are what I call spiritual parents who would like to do it, but when you suggest the idea, two things appear inside them. One is guilt, and the second is inadequacy. And if we only use a model that encourages the Christian parent, we will miss the opportunities to figure out ways to support and encourage those who feel guilty and inadequate. And I want our churches to be more careful. Family of origin is tremendously important, but more and more kids are coming up being raised by families who are in this category. And guilt and inadequacy doesn't ever produce a committed disciple parent. It causes them to not quit reading our emails, to quit going to the parent seminar or the parent meeting because all they do is feel guilty and inadequate. So we have to ask a different set of questions for them. The other third is your non-Christian parents. They give you permission to work with their kids, but they are not involved in this faith formation of their children. That's the family I grew up in. So if my church would have used the family ministry model I hear a lot, I would have never heard about Jesus, because my mom and dad were not going to be the tools to get there. So I want to make sure that when we talk about family of origin, we're wrestling with the reality of how messy that is.
Right.
And get a ministry mindset that says, what do the Christian parents need from us? And there's lots of great tools out there in that category. But the middle one, what does a person who feels guilty and inadequate need from us in the church? And I think we got to ask that question more, because these parents can be involved in their faith formation of their kids, but often they're not, because they don't know what to do. So I always say the Christian parents are your partners. The spiritual parents are your supporters. They really like that you're doing Christian stuff with their kids, because they really do want their kids to grow in faith. They just don't know how to do it themselves. And the non-Christian parents give you permission to work with their kids. That's it.